Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Expert Corner segment. We have Neil Townsend, Chief Market Analyst for FarmLink Marketing Solutions and GrainFox. You are joining us once again. Welcome back, Neil. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me, Tracy.
Excellent. So over our last couple of segments, we were gearing up, chatting about your upcoming fall harvest event that was held last week. So I am curious, can you tell us all about it?
Yeah, it's great to be here again. We want to thank everyone who joined us for another very successful GrainFox webinar event. We had, a lot of people sign up and a lot of people were at the actual session. If you happen to register but couldn't make the event, we have good news. The entire recorded webinar is available to watch right now on GrainFox. Users can register as well for a 3-month free trial on GrainFox by visiting grainfox.ca. It was a really excellent webinar. We were joined by several different guests. The moderator and host was Karen Braun from Reuters. We had Nathan Carson from, he's a sort of a specialist in fertilizer. Jacob Shapiro was our geopolitical specialist, and Ranulph Glanville, Chief Market Analyst at DePutter, were there. And, one of the big issues that everybody was talking about is just, obviously the Ukraine-Russia war and all of the geopolitical sort of turmoil that we have in the markets right now. So, a lot of times we wanted to start maybe just with fundamentals, just saying, how much was growing, how much was carried in, how much is demanded. But because of the world circumstances right now, we really had to start with sort of like looking at geopolitics and, what's going to happen with the war. What about relationships between other countries such as China and the U.S. or Iran and the U.S. or Saudi Arabia and the U.S. and just, all of those issues. Additionally, Ranulph Glanville from DePutter, he went a little bit more in depth in some of the macroeconomic circumstances to do with, the inflation that we're seeing, which is running really rampant in the markets, and that what kind of things would that do for farmers and the markets, right? And obviously, we're living in an environment where we are seeing interest rates rising like we've never really seen in the last 20, 50, 30 years. Nathan Carson spoke about some of the challenges about the fertilizer markets and how do you prepare for planting another crop in 2023? And, only then did we really get into sort of like, what it all means for grains and oilseeds prices like wheat and canola and those types of things. So it was a pretty interesting day. And I think like we covered a lot of ground in a very short amount of time. Like I learned a lot too. So I'm glad that there's a video of it up on grainfox.ca because I want to go back and hear what some of my contemporaries had to say, people who are experts in their field. So, I wanted to see what, Karen Braun had to say about the South American soybean crop. And there's a little segment there where she speaks about it. And just to get that kind of insight was really, really useful. And I would recommend anybody who's interested in the markets, interested in what's going on, to go take a look at it, because it certainly had some, illuminated some of the situations that we're dealing with in such a complex and frankly uncertain and volatile time right now in 2022.
Excellent. I am glad you guys have a replay. And just before I ask you a few questions, I want to let you guys know in the audience that we'll put a link on the show page here for that replay right on FarmLink's website. So just don't forget that. Go to Farm Marketer. Okay, Neil, I had a few questions I wanted to ask you about, and really, this is your world, and I'm curious, what is one thing that really stood out for you from the event?
Well, I think what really stood out to me was the word uncertainty. It might sound like a little bit of a cop-out that all of the people were talking about, so many unknowns, all of the different variables that are moving around, how much we're dependent on, just as an example, like what does Putin decide to do? Does he decide to keep going with the war? Does he decide to, take away the Ukrainians' right to ship grain with the export corridor? All of these things are nobody can give a definitive answer because there are two sides or multiple sides to all those situations, and they can unfold a lot differently. So I just think everybody kind of mentioned some uncertainty, like even about, something that is more within our bailiwick, just like production. And we were talking about South America. Well, just the whole issue that, they're planting right now, but they're sort of scheduled to maybe flip from a La Nina to an El Nino and the implications of that. But I mean, will they flip from a La Nina to an El Nino? I mean, looks like it, but when and where? So there's just so many questions. And I just said, it's not so much that you come out of it thinking well, they didn't answer a lot of questions. It's really interesting because when you give into uncertainty, there's a couple things that can happen. One thing would be just I don't know what to do, so I won't do anything. Yeah. Or sort of have a plan to kind of combat that uncertainty. And one thing that we talk about is strategic inertia, meaning if we're not doing anything, we want to know why we're not doing anything. And all of the different speakers sort of address that. Here's the risks and the opportunities going forward in these various markets, from geopolitics to macroeconomics to the grains and oilseeds markets, right down to, the farm level. I should mention there was one other speaker who gave a lot of very illuminating, interesting talks, and that's John DePutter, who was the founder of DePutter Publishing. And I mean, we had him in a segment, we called it 10 Good Minutes, and it really truly was 10 good minutes, where he looked at really these top level trends that are changing all the time and the multiple year cycles. So within this uncertainty, you can fall back a little bit and say, okay, well, this might be the start of this cycle or the end of this cycle. And I really thought that he cut through a lot of the sort of clouds and turbulence and got you into a place where you could say, okay, this is a way to plan for not just the next few months, but the next few years. And a really, really excellent insight. And I mean, the best compliment I can give to the webinar is that I learned a lot from it. I'm not saying I'm, the preeminent expert or anything like that. I'm just saying that when I learned something, I really enjoyed it. And I think, again, I reiterate that people can go and look at it for free at grainfox.ca, sign up for a 3-month trial on GrainFox and really benefit from the insights of these experts.
Perfect. Okay, so I think the webinar will probably answer my next question, but really what I want to prompt you on is where should producers be looking? What should they be on the lookout for? There's so much on the go. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, probably geopolitics. We should be looking for, trying to read the tea leaves, so to speak, about, where things are going to go. Right now, it doesn't look too great. It looks like the war is going to get worse before it gets better. But, we need to find some reason why there'll be a break in that trend. Wars shouldn't go on forever. And it does look like Russia is relatively weakening compared to Ukraine. They just maybe need the ability to kind of get out of it. The second thing I would say is that one thing that came up from a lot of speakers, like Ranulph Glanville mentioned it, John DePutter mentioned it, is the notion of sort of incremental selling. Because the future has some, rocky patches in front of it. And, one of the sort of more optimistic tonalities to the call, because we're talking with farmers, is that the prices of the products that we produce on our farms are relatively high right now. And so we wanted people to take advantage of it. And that's why we sort of advise that, when things are so uncertain and volatility is, an everyday occurrence, it's okay to sell and to sell a little bit more than maybe you usually would. So the recommended sales levels came out, and, we were talking about 50 to 60% on most of the crops so far, which is relatively early in the marketing year, but we just feel that's a good place to be because, again, that keyword uncertainty. I joked, Tracy, in the call that if, somebody was playing a drinking game and the word that they had to take a drink on was uncertainty, by the end of the hour and a half webinar, they would have been in an uncomfortable place. And it's not to make light of it. It's just to say that it is sort of the omnipresent word that we're dealing with. And that's why it's so important to have people who are really big experts like Jacob Shapiro to just cut through the noise and tell us that, a lot of the headlines read like China's in really big problems. And he didn't see it that way. He was like, China is dealing with their problems in an incremental fashion. It's going to be okay. They're not going to invade Taiwan anytime soon. and they want to partake in the world economy like they've done before. And I mean, he said that before. President Xi on the weekend said almost those exact same words to the big Congress in China. And that's why I'm saying, like, if you listen to all the different details that came out in that webinar, you'll be surprised, about sort of how coherent the message is despite the uncertainty, but also you'll get a lot of actionable items that you can actually use and think about and to kind of form your strategy going forward.
Excellent. I wasn't able to attend, so I'm excited to watch it along with you guys in the audience. So I'm hearing it for the first time from you as well. So this is great. I'm curious. We chatted a little bit before, and you said you guys had fantastic feedback from attendees. What was the kind of things being said? I know you touched base with them a little bit.
Well, one way, I've done a lot of speaking in my career, and one of the ways you can test engagement is to see the questions that you get, both in terms of quantity and quality. And we got an enormous volume of questions. And that's because, we triggered a lot of things, John DePutter did, Ranulph Glanville, Jacob Shapiro, Nathan Carson, Karen Braun, myself, triggered a lot of things. We covered so many different areas. It was a very fast-paced, quick-paced, webinar. Like, it was a sort of a non-traditional format. We were interacting with each other. We were going back and forth. We played fill in the blank. We had rapid fire, this kind of stuff. And that's why really I'm very valuable to have the the recording, because there is so much there. But so we got a lot of questions, and very high quality questions, like questions where people were triggered to think about something, to ask about an actionable item. And we were able to kind of, I'm not saying our answers were completely fulfilling the promise of the question, but we tried to give them the answer that they wanted. And again, the other feedback we've gotten, we did a survey, and the results were fairly favorable. People liked the format. They liked the sort of amalgamation of experts, and not experts all saying the same thing, and not experts all in the same area. They liked some of the outsiders that came in, a U.S. perspective and sort of an Eastern Canada perspective. And of course, everybody loved, John DePutter, sort of, a more experienced member of the analytical community, just kind of, had that 10 solid minutes to just kind of tell us something that really was insightful and also comforting.
Nice. And the great thing, you guys had multiple speakers and a good amount of time, but not too much. So it's really get to the point, right? And kind of from what I'm hearing from you is the highlights of what everybody had to bring to the table. So sounds like a fantastic event. Again, reminder, check out Farm Marketer, and we'll have the links for that webinar on FarmLink's website in the show notes here. So, okay. Unless you have anything else you wanted to add on the event, I want to shift gears a little bit. You guys have something else that's really exciting in the works. If you don't have anything else to say, I'll carry on.
No, I mean, totally, Tracy. I mean, we're very excited. Last time in the spring event, we did, a paper. And the paper was published a little bit after that thing. And the paper's more for people who are a little bit more, well, it's for everybody really, but it's also, here are the numbers. Here's a supply and demand balance table. And I got to say, when we did it for the spring webinar, I kind of thought, well, who reads anymore? Well, surprisingly enough, a lot of people read. It was a very popular item. And again, people learn, or people interact with, information in a different way. So we're providing it for you. So all of the GrainFox users should be on the lookout for this special report. It's going to be released on Thursday, October 20th. Our expert panelists from the Bin to the Bank event are delivering even more insights. So, Jacob wrote a portion of it, Ranulph wrote a portion of it, and I wrote a portion of it. So be sure to sign up for your free trial and activate your account today so you don't miss out. The detailed report, I mean, again, I like reading, and the first section, of course, this time had to be about geopolitics. So Jacob leads off. He highlights a lot of the major geopolitical watch points. Second person to write was Ranulph. And again, Ranulph covers a lot of the interesting details to do with macroeconomics that, there can be years where you don't really think about them, like, the inflation rate or the interest rates, but now they really, really matter. They're dictating central bank policy. They're dictating the affordability of products. They're dictating how much inputs are going to cost. So he talks about that, interest rates, foreign exchange. And then the final portion of the paper is just some outlook for 2022, 23, fundamentals for canola, wheat, durum. And, then we delve into lentils and a little bit on Indian policy as well. So, I'd like, as I mentioned before, this report is only available on GrainFox. So be sure to sign up for the free 3-month trial. You'll get access to the tools and features of GrainFox that help track sales and inventory, calculate your return on investment, find and compare crop prices, and just so much more.
Excellent. That is a lot of value. So once again, I will put a link to that so you can get your copy of the harvest report. And again, go to our show page. We'll link you over and you can get your copy of that. So excellent. You guys are so busy over there, adding value to farmers. I love it. That makes me want to pivot and get you to talk a little bit about GrainFox. We've done some segments in the past, Expert Corner, where you guys chatted about the platform. And lately we've been just doing a bit of a build up to the event, talking about market updates. Let's go back and dive into GrainFox a little bit. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, for sure. When GrainFox, the great thing about, say, even the webinar or the paper or GrainFox is that it ends up being a collaboration of a lot of talented people to bring something that adds utility and value to farmers and the farming experience, because the main purpose is to help producers achieve their financial goal, and GrainFox is all about that. In the early stages, I'm not a big computer expert. In the early stages, I thought, if GrainFox just could be like a curation of information about the ag space, so I don't have to do that needle in a haystack, looking on the web, trying to figure out if it's a legitimate source or what people are saying. I would have said that would have been a great thing. And in the early stages, that's what it kind of did. It brought forward a lot of information. It still has all that component. That component's only being enhanced over time. But, now it offers much more. So you can read go read the special harvest report, watch or rewatch, from bin to bank, the webinar, and then start exploring the tools, because among them is Farm Profile, your farm business command center. Add your farms and your fields and your commodities to view your entire crop portfolio, track and manage inventory, create contracts, schedule deliveries, and view detailed reports that include year-over-year comparisons. And that's bespoke for you. So in other words, it's you get to see how you're doing. The second thing is, it combines valuable tools with expert market analysis and timely sales recommendations. So that's sort of my realm and Ranulph's realm and John DePutter's realm. And, we're going to give you analytics and tell you what's going on with the markets, and we make sales recommendations, and you're going to get a well-informed sales strategy that helps you grow your farm wealth. We also offer tools to help producers make these decisions with tools like the return on investment calculator. Tabulate your expenses, compare against provincial benchmarks, and calculate potential ROI. Again, this is something that came out of the webinar. One piece of advice was you got to know your costs. You also have to know relativity. If you plant crop 1 or crop 2, how does it, turn out? We understand people are running a rotation here, but maybe they have a choice within this particular category. They can grow one grain or another grain. Well, you want to know how much is it going to cost? How much are you going to have? Because farming is a business, and it's very important to know the details on where you're going to be. There's also the Farm Profile, where you're tracking and managing your sales, inventory, deliveries, and you view everything in one place. Very, very handy that way. Price Finder. So we have thousands and thousands of prices across North America. You can drill down and look at what the price is in your area or what it is in other areas. Maybe you can determine a lead and a lag. If you know that one area usually hits a price before your area gets that price, then you can just be watching that area and then gear up and get ready to sell.
I love it. And you know what? There are so many decisions, so many details that farmers have to keep track of. It is just a lot. So that's why I love having you guys on the show, Expert Corner and sharing tools, your webinar, your reports, and GrainFox, because these are big, massive businesses, right? Big and massive businesses, and it's hard to keep track of. And those little details are important, especially kind of going back to what you said before. Interest rates are going up, prices are going up, et cetera, right? So to me, our mission here, Farm Marketer, Expert Corner, Impact Farming Show, is to bring farmers the people and ideas, and I would say tools that impact their farming operation. So I always love having you guys on to share market insights, talk about what you're doing, talk about your tools. So thank you.
Like nobody that we talked to recently says like, hey, things are getting easier. They're less complex. Everybody's saying the opposite. It's getting more complex and harder. And, that's why, again, the webinar brought together multiple expertises from different areas. The paper does the same thing. And GrainFox is that tool that says, hey, you don't need to be an expert in this area. We have a simple tool that you can use. Just punch in your numbers and you're going to get a clearer picture of what's going on and what's happening. And I mean, that's how I operate my life too, because I mean, you need help nowadays because the world is more complex. There's more variables in motion, and trying to gear up and decide what to do just on your own, I think is difficult. It's maybe admirable, but it is very difficult. And I think the collaborative spirit of GrainFox and the webinar and the paper and everything, I mean, this is the directionality which people should be going, because it's very complex.
Absolutely. Okay. One more time, can you tell producers how to find out more about GrainFox? And I'm also curious because sometimes we're in a rush, sometimes to sit down and read that information. Sometimes we just like to chat. Is there a way to, one, sign up online, and two, connect with somebody and just say, okay, tell me about what you guys do. Tell me about GrainFox.
Definitely. I mean, first and foremost, visit grainfox.ca, sign up for a 3-month trial to get access to everything we've talked about, the recorded webinar, the special report, a whole suite of powerful tools and features designed to help you make informed sales. But again, I mean, I'm a little bit of a Luddite. I fear technology. It's like, how do I do it? Well, if you have more questions, book a live demo of GrainFox with our customer support team by visiting grainfox.ca. So we have a dedicated group of staff. They're patient, they're knowledgeable, they're understanding. They want to help. They're available. Just go there, sign up, and one of them can talk to you, show you the tool, show you how to use it, and really give you a free preview of all the tools and unlock the potential of GrainFox for you and your farm.
Excellent. I'm glad you mentioned that because, most producers are comfortable. They have everything on their phone. They're good to go, but some producers aren't, and they want to dive in, but maybe having somebody to talk with them and walk them through that process might be valuable. So I love that you added that. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Neil, I love our chats. You guys are doing great work over there. We covered a lot today. The webinar, you guys don't forget to go to the show page. And again, Farm Marketer, you can go to News and Expert Corner in the search categories, and you'll find all these Expert Corner segments with Neil and the previous ones we've done as well. So go to that show page. You can check out the webinar. We'll link you through to get the report, and we'll also include links where you can sign up for GrainFox and learn more. I think I covered it, Neil. Did I get it all?
I think you did, Tracy. Awesome.
Excellent. I just wanted to thank you again, Neil. You are awesome. I enjoy the work you guys are doing, and I look forward to chatting with you again, Neil. And you guys in the audience, we'll see you on the next segment. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.